one was blocked, another one shanked because of the bad snap. But he's back to his old self. 2 for 2.
Welcome to Bustin' Heads Boxing. This is Darrell.
And this is Will.
Now we're going to talk about two exciting fights for this weekend. The Rocky Juarez versus Chris John and Juarez Diaz versus Juan Manuel. All right, first we're going to start off with Rocky Juarez versus Chris John. Will, you want to start it off and talk about that fight?
Well, being that I haven't yet seen Chris John fight since he hasn't fought in the States and I haven't gone about trying to download any of his fights, I can't really say much on that. I know that he has a victory over Juan Manuel Marquez. I know that he has an undefeated record fighting in Indonesia. He has a win over Jose Barrios. He has a win over Derek Gain. Actually, he beat Barrios twice. I don't really know too much about the guy. Like I said, I haven't seen him fight, but if you have a win over Juan Manuel Marquez, that pretty much says a lot, even though it may have been controversial. I read an article on that fight saying that, Marquez had some points deducted from him. But, you still got to give the guy some credit. He stood toe-to-toe with a guaranteed first ballot Hall of Famer, and he actually won the fight. And Rocky Juarez, he's not really one of my most favorite fighters. And I think he's going to be one of those guys who pretty much either goes into early retirement or becomes like a tune-up guy. Yeah. Who, up-and-coming fighters beat up on to prove that they actually have some skill.
I got to agree with that.
I have to go with Chris John.
Oh, Chris John, wow. That's huge.
I would have to go with Chris John.
Right, because Rocky Juarez is coming in with 28-4. Right? He's 4-9 out of his last 9 fights. He lost against Barrera twice, which is very, very, very close. And Marquez, which is every fight seems that he could have maybe pulled out each fight, but all of them was close losses. He's 28 years old, so we should know at this point in time what type of fighter he is. He's 5'5" average, 69-inch reach, and he has a pretty good knockout percentage rate of 62%. Which is not too bad. He seems like one of the fighters who just can't take it up to the elite level. He's right at the top, but maybe like a B fighter, not an A fighter. Typical style, straight ahead. But with that style, you have to have knockout power, which he doesn't seem to have. At this point, 1 punch knockout power to really hurt somebody. So he's been losing. He done lost more than half of his fights of his last 6. He seems to be just that stepping stone fighter right now. Well, Chris John, as you said, he's making his first fight in the States outside of Asia, which could be a distraction, and we're gonna see how he fares. He did have that big time fight win against Juan Marquez, right? I looked at that fight. It was a tough fight to score. We have Marquez coming forward, being the aggressor. Chris John, not really a big puncher that I saw so much. Very, very quick, good on his feet, throws a decent jab. He was moving around really good. Throughout that fight, I saw Marquez getting frustrated just by the movement of Chris John. So this fight, I'm gonna have to go with the Dragon. I'm gonna have to go with Chris John the Dragon. I know his record, 42-0 with 1 draw and 22 knockouts, is kind of blown up by just fighting in Asia. Right. So, but just by his skill set, I'm gonna have to go with Chris John over Rocky Juarez. So there you have it. I have Chris John over Rocky Juarez. I'm looking at this fight going the distance. You got anything else?
I mean, Chris John has about 42 wins and only 20 knockouts. So I don't think Juarez has ever been stopped. So I don't see any reason to say it won't go the distance. I don't think Rocky Juarez is. Chris John appears to be one of those upper echelon fighters, and that's just not what Rocky Juarez is. So I think unanimous decision is probably what everybody is expecting, and that's probably what everybody's going to get.
Right. And I happen to agree with that. I don't think it's no knockouts because out of all the things, Rocky Juarez seems to have a solid chin.
But what I will say, the fight is taking place in Texas.
Yes.
Rocky Juarez is from Texas.
Right, you're right.
It is boxing. We've seen stranger things happen.
Ooh.
Chris John is from Indonesia. Judges might not really give him the benefit of the doubt. So the hometown kid, we've seen those decisions come down thousands of times in the sport of boxing. So don't be surprised if Chris John physically wins the fight, but technically loses it.
Right, exactly. It's happening right up in Houston, man. So
exactly.
Hometown kid.
Exactly.
All right. So once we return, we're gonna talk about Juan Diaz, the baby bull, against Juan Manuel.